Donte DiVincenzo is out. Brandon Miller is out. Injuries are all over the shop in the NBA. Let's talk about them. Michael Bolton, Esquire.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and just put the fries in the bag, bro. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. That is right. You don't even need to win to get it. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Also, LockedOnDaily.com, that's where you want to head over. Get the best newsletter for your favorite team. Maybe it is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we know, what do we do now? No Donte. We'll talk about that later on. And you could also thumb and comment and do all your stuff on this video. I would appreciate that. Come for the fantasy basketball discussions. Stay for the, hey, I'm trying to get a watch for my birthday chat in the live chat premieres. Still deciding what I'm going to get. Still waiting to see what I'm going to do with my watch. Birthday next week. We'll see how we go. It is Tuesday here for me in Australia. It's MLK Day for you guys in the United States. Some games are already going at the moment. We'll do that. We'll cover those in the recap show later today. It is International Sweatpants Day. Whether they're grey sweatpants or not, that is up to you. But we are now here talking about the injuries across the league. We'll start with the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to try not to do the, like, oh, this guy's listed probable for this game and then he hasn't missed any time sort of injuries. I think it's a waste of time, generally. But we know that injuries and injury reporting is an ever-evolving amoeba of bullshit most of the time. There's no specific timeframes given for a lot of injuries. We try and guess. I try and guess. I try and make the most of my medical background, knowledge, research skills, trends through the NBA, all that sort of stuff to try and figure out this stuff. And inevitably, it's going to be wrong. It's just how it goes. So let's talk about Zach Ricochet, who's missed the last few games. It doesn't matter for most of you for fantasy. He's got a groin issue. I've got around a return around the 23rd of January for Ricochet, which is sometime this week. But yeah, it's a groin issue. It might be longer. It could very easily be longer without really nothing more needs to happen. That could just last longer. With him out, it's Vic Krejci, who steps up into at least a 12 streaming role, but a 14-team league spot. Larry Nance is probably out until around the trade deadline with that hand fracture. But obviously the big thing with the Hawks centers, not injury related, but we'll talk about this on the recap show. Onyeka Okongwu is starting over a healthy Clint Capella for the first time ever. Now, we'd seen that Okongwu, who'd been playing 24 minutes, 23 minutes, 22 minutes, you go, that's not worth it. It's not worth it. We love the ability. We think he should be getting a better go, but he wasn't. And then he went to 27 minutes for 3 games in a row. And I said, okay, let's get into this. That is enough for me. And now he's starting. I don't know whether it means 27 to 21 minute split. I don't know if it means he plays 30 minutes. I've got no idea. But it is very clear now, 14 weeks in, that Onyeka Okongwu is now a must-roster player after not being anywhere close to a top 100 guy for the first 13 weeks. Not even close to it. And now he's here. If you held on, congratulations. You burnt a roster spot for 13 weeks. And for many of you, you can do that. That is possible to do. Because of other hits you've had on your roster, the fact that you're winning anyway, that's okay. But now we hope and we see where it goes. Boston, it's clean. No injuries. There's going to be the standard Porzingis and Horford rests, although Porzingis is claiming he's going to play back-to-backs. Okay, cool. No worries. Don't know why, but apparently he is. And then we get into the first of the garbage, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know what to make of this. A million guys out. Cam Thomas, they said originally with this second hamstring injury that he might be, or he'd be out for the road trip. The road trip's over. They've got a back-to-back beginning here, I think Tuesday, Wednesday. So I don't think he plays both of those games. I'll put a maybe return date of the 22nd of January. And let's also be clear, Cam Thomas doesn't lead to the team winning. That's not what he is as a player. So they can still give him minutes. But this is going to turn into a disaster zone for Johnson, Thomas, Russell, Simmons, maybe Claxton. The only guys who are really competent level NBA players, they will be in and out all the way through. Simmons missed the last game with illness. Cool. He might be back. I don't know. Trenton Watford, I'm going to give that, like that's multiple hamstring injuries for him. I'll give that until the start of February. Maxwell Lewis has the fibula fracture. Maybe a March return for him. I don't think that he plays at all. And then at this point, I've got absolutely no idea about Bojan Bogdanovic. I would have to suggest that the odds of Bojan Bogdanovic playing a game for the Nets are close to zero. I just don't think it's going to happen. Who's going to play a game first this season? Bojan Bogdanovic or Matisse Thybulle? There's one other. Who's the other name? Maybe I'll come across it when we get to that team. But there's a couple of guys that just haven't played this season, and we sort of forget about them. And I don't think Bojan's playing. I don't think it's anyway. The first big injury news of the last few days has been Brandon Miller with now off the top of my head, scapha ungulate ligament. Doctors, tell me. Anyway, it is a significant injury. We haven't heard anything from the team about how they plan on treating it, but the fact that they called it a tear suggests to me that he will have surgery, and that will be the end of the season for Brandon Miller. I don't know that is happening for sure, and it is obviously a risky move to drop someone when you don't know, but every indication from researching that injury, from talking to people about that injury, from hearing the words that are used by the Hornets about that injury suggests to me that it is done. I don't know. If I had Brandon Miller, and I don't think I do on any teams, but if I did, I would be okay dropping him. But of course, you put him in IL. If you need the IL, then it's droppable. But otherwise, you can put him there and wait. But I do think that everything leads to the idea here that Miller is probably done. I also think Trey Mann is done. And there's been no update on that. He played like 4 games and then hurt his back. And he hasn't come back since. And there were indications back in middle to late November that it seemed like it was going to be a long-term thing. And it is. If he comes back, he will be an interesting guy to use. At the moment, we saw it. The Hornets game today is over. Nick Smith started, and Nick Smith is going to start rest of season, I believe, because I don't think Miller or Mann are returning. Now, Smith, I think, is shooting 37% from 2 for the season. He was really good today. He got a lot of shots up. I don't mind it in anything that's 14 or deeper to take a flyer. We love to get ahead of stuff. He's a gunner. He's going to have some stinking games. But think Bryce Sensabaugh in Utah, and Smith can add assists as well. Not going to be great. Not going to be awesome. Not going to hurt percentages, especially field goals, a lot. But the volume is going to be interesting here. So he is a marginally interesting guy. In Chicago, there's a bunch of weird stuff like Kobe White got ruled out today. That's okay. The only sort of, Duarte, these sort of random one-off illnesses. The only thing that's really sort of long-term or a real diagnosable injury is Torrey Craig with his leg issue. Maybe at the end of January he returns. It doesn't really matter. He's not someone that's a part of the rotation anyway. In Cleveland, Evan Mobley is out again today. They said it. They don't think that it's a severe thing. It is listed as a calf strain, which always makes me go, that should be a week. Minimum, probably 2, but I don't know. So maybe he's back at the end of this week, and with him out, it's Niang. And then you would hope it would be LeVert, but obviously it's not, because LeVert is also out today. So they're starting Max Strus. Now, that is an opportunity with LeVert, Okoro, and Mobley all out, and they could all be back next game. But those 3 all being out gives Strus an opportunity to do something interesting. I don't think that Strus is a must-grab player or a must-roster player, but in situations like this, you can add and see until those guys come back, because there is 3 rotation pieces all out that enables more minutes and usage to go to somebody like that in that particular role, as well as like a Milk Jerome and a George Niang. For Dallas, a lot of injuries listed here for this team. Luka Doncic with his calf around the All-Star break, trade deadline-ish sort of time. I've got 4th of February there. That could easily push out to the 20th. So don't take that as gospel. We don't really know. The question, of course, this team played today and everyone saw how massive Daniel Gafford went. You know what else is massive? But Lively with the ankle, I think he's a chance to miss their next game. They've got a back-to-back coming up, and then he plays the one after that. What we know about Daniel Gafford is that when Daniel Gafford plays minutes, he will be unbelievable for fantasy. This is a proven thing for years and years and years. I do not think that Daniel Gafford putting up one of the biggest games you'll ever see, honestly, today, and we'll talk about it later, against the Charlotte Hornets team, which allows a lot of points and a lot of fantasy numbers to opposing teams. I don't think that this means, all right, Gafford is now a 30-minute starter and Lively will do nothing when he comes back. I don't think that's the case. We saw Gafford playing 15 to 16 minutes a night, and even literally the game before this one with no Lively. You know how many minutes Gafford played? 20. He had 5 offensive fouls in that game, but he played 20. So, yeah, it was a great game. This does not suggest to me that Gafford is now the starting center. This does not suggest to me that Gafford is now going to play 25 a night. This does not suggest to me that long-term Gafford is the option or a must-roster guy rest of season. But as soon as Lively is out, you grab him and you run with it. Cool. Quentin Grimes missed today. Yep, that's cool. Whatever. He's not a 12-team league guy. Probably not a 14-team. Maybe he is, actually. Donte DiVincenzo about a week or so, maybe. But who knows? I thought middle of January he'd be back, and we're past that now. I don't know that he's going to have an impact for most people. Jaden Hardy with an ankle problem, maybe a couple more games, but there haven't been really any sort of update on that. And then there's Dwighty Powell with the hip strain, who'd probably get some minutes with Lively out, but that hip strain could easily last longer than the Derek Lively ankle injury. We've got more teams to get to, and we'll get to them. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook with the NFL playoffs rolling. We're up to championship game weekend. Who's you going to win? Chiefs? Bills? Oh, who are the other two teams? Can't remember now. One of them's Washington. Who's the other NFC team? Anyway, I'm sure someone will tell me, but FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. You can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That is $300, and that gets you the action. Keep rolling. That's not a real sentence, but I think you got the gist of what I was trying to say. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and there's a variety of bets on there to help you get engaged and have some fun. Spreads, money lines, totals, individual game team totals, anytime touchdown props, other props, yardage props. It's all there over at FanDuel. So join FanDuel.com today. Start with $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, let's go on to the next team. We're talking about the Denver Nuggets. Last game, Peyton Watson suffered a hit to the head. They called it a head contusion. They said that he was, I think, questionable to return, and he never did. He has been providing some defensive stats as a streamer, but the value for him is not absolutely locked in or anything along those lines. That just would mean they have to give a little bit more to Aaron Gordon, and he to me is a very fringy sort of guy at the moment, Gordon. And then Vlatko Čančar, probably around the trade deadline for a return from him from a knee injury, but I also think there's a massive chance he just doesn't play. Detroit is clean from injuries. None at all. That's great for them, but Golden State is not. Now, I had this listed as Steph Curry, questionable with an ankle, but he's listed as probable today, so it looks like he did escape injury, so that's a W for him. Kuminga, I'm looking at an early February return, and Draymond Green has a calf issue. They've done an MRI. They haven't told us the results. I've put him out until the 28th of January as just like a baseline for Draymond Green and his calf. I actually think it's going to be a little bit longer. So I put 28 there as just like, at the very least expect that. I think we're talking mid-February, honestly, for Draymond, but that's just based on him, his body, his history of calf injuries, the way it's been handled at the moment makes me suggest or think that we're talking a month-ish for Draymond. With Kuminga out, with Draymond out, with Anderson out, with Podziemski out, it means that Moses Moody and Guy Santos Alhalpa are going to have to get those minutes. But of course, as Podziemski and as Anderson and then Kuminga all return, the value of someone like Moody drops. But when four guys are out, and three of them realistically play the four, Kuminga, Green, and Anderson, that obviously helps whoever's going to slide into that position. So it's short term for Moody or Santos, but long term, don't really see it. On to the Houston Rockets. Not a huge amount going on here. Jabari Smith is dealing with that hand issue. He's decided not to have surgery on it, which is interesting. So we'll see where we go there. We're still looking at probably another month for him to return. And there'll be an impact at some point when, with him returning, it won't necessarily be huge, but on Tari and on Amen, but I still think they're going to be solid. Whether Amen starts or not, I've got no idea. But we'll find out. Steven Adams dealing with a migraine. He's out today. That doesn't really matter that much. Indiana, all clean for them. And the next one is the Clippers, who the injury report was clean, but we knew there was going to be some rests coming up with them having 4 games in 5 nights. And today, they've listed Ivica Zubac out for today. Norman Powell and Chris Dunn are questionable. So James Harden is probable, so he will play, but he's going to sit one of these other games coming up. Kawhi is out today. So overall, they're actually fine injury-wise. They're just going to sit guys over this 4-game, 5-night period. So just be aware of that. They're not long-term things, but there are going to be some sits. So Mo Bamba may be a stream for today with Zubac out. For the Lakers, Austin Reeves at the end of last game banged his knee. He didn't return for the final 3 minutes or so. He thinks that he's okay, but we'll just monitor that. And then we haven't seen Christian Wood all season, maybe into January, but he's had about 3 setbacks already. Jared Vanderbilt maybe in a week. We don't really care about that for most fantasy leagues. And then Jalen Hood-Schifino hurt his hamstring about 10 years ago, and they've just said, bro, don't bother. You're not playing again. Apparently, that's just been a long-term thing, and I don't know, and I don't really think anybody cares that much. For the Grizzlies, Marcus Smart, maybe a return this week. This is around that initial time frame of that injury. We haven't had any updates, but they don't usually give significant updates on things like that. You'll just get a thing saying, hey, by the way, Marcus Smart, questionable. You go, oh, okay. So they'll do a doubtful, then a questionable, then he plays. So just watch that with Smart. Vince Williams, I think an early February return. Gigi Jackson, by the way, back today. He's playing today. We'll talk about that in the recap show. And Cam Spencer has a thumb fracture, so he'll be early February as well. But when Smart and Williams all return, that's just extra guys to play at the 3 and the 2. So LaRavia and Kennard and Gigi and Aldama even. Just extra guys to add into the rotation that will make it a little bit harder. Now, of course, it's the Grizzlies, so a million guys will get hurt at some point, but that's where we're at. Josh Richardson is dealing with this heel injury for Miami. He's barely played. He is 100% washed. Maybe end of January, but it just honestly does not matter really at all. And then in Milwaukee, there's a couple of guys who are out, and they're not really big deals either. One of them is Big Boom AJ Green, who's dealing with a quad issue. He missed the last game. He might be back in the next one. But then you get Andre Jackson and Ryan Rollins and Gary Trent, who might step up, but also might do nothing. That is what those guys do. It is a consistent thing. While Marjan Beauchamp, I think he might actually just be done as an NBA player. He's got an illness again. He can't get any minutes. He's not doing anything, so we really don't care. He's not really a part of the rotation. Here's the big one, though. The Donte DiVincenzo injury. He hurt his toe, I think 2 games ago, right at the very end of the game. And nothing was really mentioned until the next day, and he was listed out. Then he was listed out again. And now they've said it's a grade 3 toe sprain. And anytime you hear grade 3, it is the worst level of sprain. It is bad. And a grade 3 toe sprain often is 4 to 5 months. Now, they haven't said that. All they've said that is he is out indefinitely. Maybe it's a 2 months thing. I don't know. Maybe it's 3. But a 4 to 5 month return from a toe sprain is not an unusual thing. So I think that you should be preparing that at least for the regular season, which has 3 months left, less than 3 months left, because regular season ends on, I think, the 13th of April, and we're at the 21st of January, less than 3 months left, and fantasy playoffs might end in 2 months, I think it's over. He's done. So the question is, what do you do? Well, Mike Conley will start. I don't think he's a must-grab. If I 12s and 10s, I wouldn't bother. 14s probably would add Conley. Nickeil Alexander-Walker will probably get a boost. Would he be a 14-team league add? Maybe, borderline. The one to watch is Rob Dillingham, because he played like 18 and 17 minutes the last 2 games. Now, I don't think Rob is going to be a 12-team add. But if he somehow figures it out, which rookie point guards, yeah, they don't figure it out, especially on good teams. They don't. Look at Bub Carrington, like he's not even a good team. He just is doing nothing. So even if Dillingham was to find 26 minutes, I don't think it'd be enough outside of, hey, let's stream him in and see what happens. So if you're in a 10, don't worry. 12, don't worry. 14, probably don't worry. Anything deeper, you would take a bit of a look at Dillingham, but I find it very hard to believe that Rob Dillingham steps in, plays 28 minutes, and becomes useful in top 100 value. I don't really see how that happens. But at least now he's a rotation player and could push to 20 minutes. Terrence Shannon's dealing with a foot issue. He's probably out until February. But also, he's just not going to be a part of things that they do. In New Orleans, I love this, don't we? Yves Missi, shoulder issue. He missed the last game. With him out, they did go to Daniel Tice, and Tice put up okay numbers. I don't think I'd want to trust Daniel Tice to do that all the time, but Missi is out again on Monday, so it's another small opportunity to stream in Tice. Then you've got Brandon Ingram with the ankle. We haven't had any update on Ingram at all. He's been out for months. This is what Ingram does. He gets an injury. It seems to take forever to come back from, and we get no updates on it. It was a significant ankle sprain, yes. But I don't know if he's going to play again. I've got no idea. I've got about maybe a chance to return on the weekend, but there's just been no information. Herb Jones, I believe, is done for the year with the shoulder. We haven't had an update on that, but if he has shoulder surgery on that labrum, it's over. He's done. But we haven't heard anything. And the other one is Zion, who, again, just like Zion, you played 28 minutes, you played 24 minutes, you sat out the next game due to a back-to-back, fair enough. Then you played 23 minutes, and now you're out with an illness again, which he has had this illness a couple of times. But, like, what's going on here? Like, it's just continual frustration. Now, I don't mind the illness. Like, what are you going to do with an illness, right? Like, where did he get the illness? I don't care. It's not my business. But it's just something all the time with this guy. Hamstring, rest, suspension, rest, illness. Like, come on, man. So I guess he's back the next game. I don't know. There's a million guys out here, obviously, so you get opportunities for Robinson Earl, Javonte Green, and Daniel Tice, but nothing there. All the Messi and Zion ones aren't long-term, and Ingram, we know he's been out all this time anyway, and Jones is done for the year, is my guess. It's a guess, but I hope it's an accurate guess. I hope it's at least founded in a level of logic. We'll come back. We'll talk about more injuries. But today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Yes, Prize Picks with NBA season and basketball all in the headlines. Well, now there's no better time to get in on the Prize Picks action. Put your basketball knowledge right where your mouth is. Is that what it is? Not your money where your mouth is, but whatever it is, just turn your knowledge into cash with Prize Picks. They just put up player projections, and you look at them, and you just say more, less, more or less. Easy to do. You do at least 2 of those, and you can win up to 10 times? No, 1,000 times your cash, and those entries can be done in less than 60 seconds. I'd suggest you take a little bit longer than 60 seconds, because maybe you want to have a think about what you're putting in there, but if you're really in a time squeeze, it can be done in 60 seconds, and they've also got the Prize Picks Flex Play, so if one of those picks does not hit, you still have the opportunity to double your money. And now is the perfect time to join at Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That is right. There is no need to win to get that bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay. The New York Knickerbockers, Karl-Anthony Towns and Josh Hart are both available to play. They got a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday. I expect they play Tuesday. So the only guy at the moment who is out is Mitch Robinson, and we're expecting an early February return. I'm also expecting he doesn't have any sort of impact on fantasy outside of Sunday streaming for blocks and field goal percentage. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think that they limit what Josh Hart does so that Towns can play the 4, or they limit what Towns does so that Robinson can come in and play big minutes. To me, Mitchell Robinson is just a very clear backup center who plays 15 to 18 minutes a night, and that doesn't matter for most people playing fantasy. All right, next we look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. A few injuries here, obviously. Jalen Williams missed the last game with what they're calling a hip issue. It's nothing serious, I'm pretty sure. They played the Nets. Their next game is against the Jazz. So don't be shocked if Jalen or Shea or somebody sits in that game against the Jazz. Don't be surprised. Isaiah Hardenstein's got the calf strain, soleus strain. 23rd of January is the original, or the date that I'm projecting a return. It could easily last longer. We just don't have an extra update on that. And with him out, Jalen Williams, Pig Williams, has been pretty good in most of the games. He's at least streamable while that happens. I've got Chet returning around that trade deadline, 23rd of February. They gave us that 3 to 5 week reevaluation time, which again does not mean back in 3 weeks. It does not mean back in 5 weeks. It means reevaluated in 3 to 5 weeks. He might be back, but I'm expecting a late February return now. And then AJ Mitchell, maybe you get a couple of games for him in at the end of the regular season with his toe issue. In Orlando, we are almost there with Franz Wagner. I think that he's probably back across this weekend from the oblique strain. He'll be limited, obviously, when he returns for a week or so. And then we get reduction in guys like Mr. Black and Tristan Da Silva and those sort of players who've been doing more. Jalen Suggs and Goga, I just don't know. Suggs had that back issue, and then we thought maybe it was just a one-game thing, but it's been a week or so now. With him out, Cole Anthony's useful, but when Suggs returns, Anthony and Black they're two different players. Cole Anthony, Anthony Black, they probably don't do a huge amount. If Suggs returns, then Goga Bitadze also. Wendell Carter's been great. Big minutes for Wendell. Does he keep the starting job? I think yes, but I don't know. And we'll see how those minutes shake out. Wendell at least is worth streaming for now. And I know people will ask the question, do I drop Goga for BDNR? Do I drop Goga for Khalil Ware? It's really hard to know what the Magic are going to do. I am tending to lean that Goga will play limited minutes, or be not a 30-minute-a-night starter from now on. So that would, to me, suggest that it's possible that you drop him, but it's one that's like 50-50 to me. Because Ware could just easily go back and not play any power forward for the next week. That's possible. Richards, he's the greatest of all time, so he could easily exceed what Goga does. And he has obviously less competition than what Goga does. So if you wanted to do that, that is okay. But the Goga one, it's hard to get a full read on, but my lean is that Carter will do more next to Banchero and Wagner versus Goga, but I also don't know. Jet Howard's got an ankle issue. I put him questionable, but I'm not really sure he's going to play or it matters. And then Gary Harris with his 20th hamstring injury for the season, maybe a few more games, but also he could just sit out weeks or come back, play one game, and then be out again. In Philadelphia, there's obviously a million things going on here. I don't know how much of this is real or what it is, but Paul George missed the last game with groin soreness. Caleb Martin's been out a week or so with a groin strain. Maybe they're back in the next one. I don't know. They are a terrible team at reporting injuries. Gershon Yabusele missed the last couple with knee soreness. That's why we got Adem Bona starting. Andre Drummond missed the last one. That was just a rest on his toe. He'll be okay. KJ Martin, we're probably a week away, but he was starting though before he hurt that foot. So maybe, I don't know. Rookie Council is playing at the moment, so it could be any of these guys. Kyle Lowry's got a hip issue. Maybe he plays in the next one. I also have no idea. And then Joel Embiid's, I guess, another week away. But as you know with me, if you send me any sort of question about Joel Embiid, any sort of trade questions, because, hey, do I send this guy for Joel Embiid? Just know the answer is going to be no. The answer has been no all season. The answer will continue to be no. I do not want to acquire Joel Embiid at any cost. Because not only you might say, well, it's the greatest bargain of all time. I sent out Anthony Black to get Joel Embiid. That's got to be a W, yeah? And I go, yeah, except when you've got Embiid, you go, you can't drop him. And then he's going to be in and out of your IL, and then you're going to have these uncertain situations of where he sits and what do I do. It can just lead to so many headaches. So sure, would I take that chance if I was someone sent Anthony Black for Joel Embiid? Absolutely. But it's going to create a different set of problems on your team of just the unknowns, the questionables. When do I play him? When is he in? When is he out? All right, let's put a bet on it. Will Joel Embiid be playing games on the 25th of March for the Sixers? No, he won't. That's my guess. I just think that unfortunately for him, and I've said this all along, I don't want it to be the case. I think that it is rooted. I think his knee is cooked. Yusuf Nurkic, illness. They've said now he's like, I just got to get his conditioning back. Bro, you weren't going to play him anyway. So just tell us you're not going to play him. Unless you are going to play him now? I don't know. But maybe it's another week or so here for him to return from this illness conditioning so he can sit on the bench and do nothing. Will he get traded somewhere? I don't think so. He's still got money into next season as well. So yeah, I'm not excited about that. And then we get to one of the garbage teams, Portland. Anthony Simons missed the last game with an elbow issue. Oh no. Okay. And now we're in the situation which they've had all year, by the way. And it's part of the reason why we had some skepticism about certain players. It's they're bad, but there's too many players who are too good. How do you do Simon, Sharp, Scoot, Grant, Avdia, Kamara? How do they all play? All the centers. So they're sort of just mixing and matching fake injuries. So Simons missed the last game. Scoot started. He was great. Sharp went to the bench. But what happens when Simons returns? Does Scoot go back to the bench? Does Avdia go back to the bench? Does Kamara go to the bench? What will they do? I don't know. Or will they just sit someone random next game as well? Yes, Scoot is a must-roster player. Simons is going to be a droppable player at some point. I'm sure of that. Donovan Clingan's out for about another week with the ankle problem. It's the worry here with him is, at some point you think that he'll get the minutes over Ayton, but what if he just can't stay healthy? I think that's a legitimate risk. And then Matisse Thybulle, we haven't seen him. He had a setback from the knee into an ankle. I don't think he's necessarily even going to play. Well, any minutes that matter, really. As for Clingan, again, you stash him in IL, that's no problem. And people have been asking me the question as well, do I drop Ayton? Well, I don't think so. I think he will become a drop, but it's especially while Clingan's out, I definitely wouldn't drop him. But it's going to be an annoying scenario for a very long time, is my guess. Sacramento is relatively clean. We've got Devin Carter with wrist soreness, missed the last game. Doesn't really matter. He's like a 10-minute player. And then on to the Spurs, whose next game is in Paris. There is the expectation that Jeremy Sohan will be available for that game. I think that Sohan should be rostered, but I do believe that the first few games back he will be low minutes, and he'll probably come off the bench, and eventually he'll get back to 30, 31 and be a 12-team league player. It's an ask to be able to hold and wait through this stuff, and I get it. His upside is not super high that it has to be done, but I do think that he will be a 12-team league guy. And then we go to the Toronto Raptors, where Ochai Agbaji is dealing with a hand laceration. He needs a couple of guys out to even be a fringe 12-team league player. He missed the last one. Maybe he's back for the next one. I'm sure it doesn't matter for most of you. And the other one that's annoying there is Immanuel Quickley. And I know there's someone who dropped a comment, oh man, this guy, you said he's not soft, but he's definitely soft. All he had was a bruise. The man doesn't want to play. Don't worry about those other seasons where he played all those games. Now he is soft, which of course is complete garbage. The man just had a horribly unlucky run with injuries. Undercut on the first thumb injury in preseason. Undercut in the first game of the year to hurt his pelvis. Came back. Something else happened, but now strained his hip. It's a terrible run. He is going to be unbelievably undervalued in drafts next season. I think we're talking about another week here. I'm also very certain that he doesn't play out until April. I think he comes back, obviously, but I think there'll be something that pops up like a lot of these Raptors as they try to improve their draft stock through the final 2 weeks of the season. But yeah, this idea that he's faking injuries and he's packed it away because he's got all this money, garbage. Utah, what do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to say? This is where we go. Okay, Johnny Juzang's got this hand fracture that they say, he won't actually miss the regular hand fracture time. He'll play through pain. Oh, will he? Oh, that's great. Thank you for telling us that. I don't know what that means. He will have moments of being useful. Maybe it's another week away. I don't know. Larry Markkinen and John Collins, honestly, how could I tell you? How could I give you any idea what these guys are going to do? Collins has been out for weeks. I know the fear is there that you drop him and he comes back and he plays huge minutes, but I'll give you a quick tip here. He's not playing big minutes for the Jazz. What they are doing at the moment, anything that's competent, they're just not going to do. They're not going to play him big minutes. And if he comes back, he will play 26 minutes a night. If he gets traded somewhere, like the rumor is Sacramento, okay. So what does he play? The Bobby Portis role? Does he take Keegan Murray's starting spot? He just played Trey Lyles' 21 minutes? Maybe. That's not good enough for 12s. Who trades for him to be a 28-minute-a-night starter? Don't know. Again, it is risky. He has been great. He has exceeded my expectations, and I underestimated John Collins this season. I didn't think this would happen for numerous reasons, but it did happen, and that was wrong. So if I say, hey, I don't really see it, understand that I've already got him wrong once this season. But nothing to me suggests that there is a huge role on Utah or another team coming. But I don't know for Collins. For Markkinen, he's going to be in and out and in and out. And honestly, we are getting to a stage, we're not there, where it's just going to be better to not have him on your team. You know, I said don't draft him in head-to-head leagues. Don't do it at all. Get rid of him for any top 50 player if you can. But now we're just in limbo. Jordan Clarkson's plantar fascia tear, I actually think he's done for the year. I wouldn't bother holding him. I think it's over for him, which means Isaiah Collier is worth looking at. And then I put Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton there as rest on-off, because that's what we've seen. Kessler rests, then Sexton rests, then Kessler rests, then Sexton rests. It's all over the place. I don't know that they're going to... Those guys are sort of useful enough. They're not going to win games for them, but they're sort of there as veterans, but they're not fully shutting down or anything like that. They will, I think, at some point, but they are... It looks like the way they're planning it is that they will sit games. I think a lot of it is anytime there is a bad team playing, they'll play a bad team, one of those guys will sit. If they're playing a good team, they might play. But it is going to be frustrating for Collins, Markkinen, Kessler, and Sexton rest of season. I am very, very certain of that. And on to Washington. Malcolm Brogdon with foot soreness. I've put a return date there of the 27th of January. 30th of January. But honestly, I think he might be done. Why? Because it's Malcolm Brogdon, and that's what happens. He goes to a bad team and he doesn't play. And B, the fact that they're just calling it soreness and not giving us any info suggests to me they'll just let it linger, and then people will forget about it. He came in, he did his little 20-game cameo. Here's some starts, Malcolm, good for you. I don't know this. I definitely wouldn't be holding Brogdon, but I think that they are just like, all right, we're here. We're giving these other guys minutes, and we don't actually need you playing. And Marvin Bagley with the knee, I said early February, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he's done for the season as well. I wouldn't be shocked. It's hard to judge with these teams. But that's it. That's 30 NBA teams. All the injuries that will definitely change within the next day, hour, whatever. And that's okay, because that's how we do things. That's why we do multiple shows a day. Hit the subscribe on this, and that means you'll never miss one of those shows, whether that's audio or video, and double bang and do both of them. That would be great for me as well. And as you know, what you can do right now is just do something positive. Don't be down in the dumps about the fact that you dropped Daniel Gafford 5 weeks ago, and now he went off, because that happens. Stuff happens. Be excited that Onyeka Okongwu is starting. But also understand that if you dropped him in week 4, it was the correct decision, because you can't wait 10 weeks for something to turn around most of the time. Don't beat yourself up about stuff where there are easy reasons for it. Move forward, learn, improve. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.